I'm Frank, and behind the camera, as usual, is my husband, Kevin. And
Hi!
And together, we're Cruising with Wheels. As you can see, we're almost ready to start packing for our next cruise on the NCL Gem. It's a 10-dayer this time, Eastern Caribbean. We're really excited. We cruise multiple times during the year. We like to be organized. Some people do, and some people don't.
Don't look at me, I like to be organized.
Yes, we are organized, and that's why we put together our travel cruise binder. Because we like to enjoy the cruise once we get on the ship and not have to worry about decisions being made at a moment's notice. So I guess you could say we're kind of planners.
Yeah, we're planners.
We're planners. In the front, we just basically have at a glance where we're going to be on the 10-day cruise.
And that's important because when you're on the ship, you lose track of time. You probably won't know what day it is. This way, it's all right here on the planner on the top, so we can just look at it in the morning.
Losing time is basically due to lots of overeating.
Bring a watch.
Anyways, the first section of our book is TripIt, which TripIt takes care of.
Yeah, TripIt's a great app that you can download at tripit.com, or you can find it in the App Store or Google Play, and basically it organizes all your travel information. I print it out so that we also have a hard copy that we can look at a glance, and it's stuff like your reservations for restaurants, where you're going to be, what time the ship arrives and leaves at port. So it's a nice tool to have in your cell phone, in your travel arsenal, as I call it, to refer to.
Right. The next chapter we do is Airline Information, where we just print out of the airline that we're using. This one we happen to be using Delta. We have our reservation numbers.
What we paid. Where we booked it through.
And our seat numbers. When it leaves and when it gets in. The next chapter we do is hotel. Now in some cruises, depending on what city and state we leave out of, we'll go in a day early and we'll have a hotel stay.
It's important to do that if you are leaving a port from a state that you do not reside in.
Now we live in Rochester, New York, upstate. And sometimes we cruise out of Miami, Florida. So we go down a day ahead of time and book a hotel. We're, again, as you know, the planners. So we don't want to fly and leave on the cruise ship on the same day, God forbid.
If you miss the boat, you lose your money. And we ain't about losing money.
Right. So we have a copy of our hotel reservation in here. Then we have transportation. Now, most of the time we do private transportation. We use GroundLink.
We use GroundLink. There's a lot of different ones, but we prefer GroundLink. You can prepay it. The tip is included. They've always been respectful, on time, and very helpful.
They'll pick you up outside of the door of the airport, or they'll come inside where you're waiting at baggage pickup.
There's an additional charge for that.
You just tell them what you want to do. Or maybe you're doing the transportation bus to the port, or you're doing a taxi. Whatever you're doing, information is in your transportation section.
And information is key, because if you're taking a taxi in particular, you want to have the address, phone number, and I usually will put that in my cell phone GPS, so when we get in the taxi, they don't play funny games with taking the wrong route and charging you more.
Always act like you know exactly where you're going and how to get there, because you've been there before, even though you haven't. The next section is the actual cruise information. Now, we sometimes book directly with the cruise line, and at other times we'll do cruises.com, and our information with them and how we've paid and what we've paid is in there, along with the cruise NCL Gem deck plan, along with an amenities list, because we get onboard credit.
Or specialty dining, or they very often will run different promotions. So you just want to make sure that you have with you documentation as proof, because very often they're dealing with 4,000 or 5,000 people on these ships, and it might just be lost in communication.
Right.
So as long as you have the paperwork
Right.
to buttress your claim, they'll give you what you deserve.
And especially if you don't want to lose a nice Christmas gift that a relative has given you
True.
for a nice onboard credit when you arrive. That is something you really want to keep. Then there's a section on restaurants. Now,
We'll be having a video about
Right.
specialty dining and in particular tips on dining room etiquette, how to find your table, whether you're doing anytime dining or whether you're doing assigned seat dining.
right.
But with NCL in particular, they have a variety of specialty dining venues that we choose to go in. And
So we just type up our 10-day itinerary. We have a list of all the restaurants, whether they're the main dining rooms or whether they're specialty. And we kind of just plot out every day where we want to eat and when we want to eat based on what location we are on the cruise, what island we're at, and what we're kind of doing that day. And we just list it all out, and we've already made reservations before
Yep.
we leave.
we made reservations. NCL very often will open up reservations between 60 and 45 days prior to sailing so that you can go into your online account with the cruise line that you're traveling with, and you can actually pick the time and the restaurant that you want to go eat in. And on NCL in particular, they allow you to do that with their regular restaurants.
Right.
The ship that we're sailing on, the NCL Gem, has, I think, 8 complimentary venues and 6 or 8 specialties.
Right. Now the specialties you have to pay money for. It's an additional, but it's really not bad considering here in our hometown it's what we would pay. But if you're looking forward to going to Cagney's Steakhouse on maybe your first night, second night, or whatever,
You better have a reservation.
you better have a reservation. And if you wait till you get on the ship, you might not get that reservation. So we plan
Yeah.
ahead, and we know what we're doing.
We even like to pay ahead because the cruise is very nice. Is a very nice experience when you get on and your cruise is paid. Your gratuities are paid.
We prepay gratuities as well.
Your shore excursions are prepaid.
We pick those out and prepay if we can.
And your restaurants and dining is prepaid.
Right. So when
So-
we get on board, and whatever we charge to our onboard account is kind of minimal
Yep,
because we've
minimal.
already prepaid.
Drinks, souvenirs.
Right. So it's nice to come
Incidentals.
home and not have a big charge bill waiting. So that's why we plan and we do a lot of prepaying. The next chapter is shore excursions. And again, while we're home, before we leave, we go online and we check out excursions. Now, it's a little difficult when you're in a wheelchair and you're looking at the description of the excursion, and they have the activity level, they call it.
Yep.
And we look for activity level 1, which would be for me, but you really need to sometimes call NCL and talk to the excursion department, the people that handle that, because there was a case where we booked an excursion and we got there and it required me to have to walk up about 50 stairs to get to the top because their elevator had not been built yet. So obviously I couldn't do that, so that kind of was a waste. We went back to the ship and we're, no problem, they refunded our money.
I'll link a phone number down in the description of this video to the special needs desk, because that's who you want to call. You don't want to call the shore excursion department because they really don't know the limitations of that shore excursion.
Right. It is difficult when you're handicapped, you're in a wheelchair, you're using a walker. That's why we plan as much as we can. The next section is basic personal information.
And this is very important. This is if not the most important section that you can have in your travel binder. is the personal information and documentation. It's highly, highly, highly suggested that you follow us by doing yourself a favor and listening to this sage advice. You should copy, what do we copy?
We copy, as a gay couple, we copied our marriage license. So we have a copy in it. Because if you're traveling out of the country, you're in the British Virgin Islands, you're whatever country you're traveling, or you're over in Europe, same-sex marriage is not everywhere. And God forbid, if I were to get ill, they would want to know who this gentleman is, and would have to prove that he is my husband and has the legal right to make my decisions. So we have a copy of our marriage license, we have a copy of our healthcare proxy and
Our power of attorneys. But even if you don't have those documents, you should always, always, always have a color copy front and back of your credit cards that you're taking with you, of your passport, your driver's license, and medical cards. Because God forbid anything happened, say your bag gets stolen or lost, or anything.
Right, you've got to be prepared.
You have to be prepared for anything.
You don't know what might happen. We also have a list of all our medications. Kevin has his list and I have mine. I'm on a lot of medications, and should something happen to me, it probably would be a little chaotic, and for Kevin to remember every medication I'm on,
I'd remember.
he probably would. But it's nice to have it in Xeroxed and on a list. And everything we have here was downloaded from a website in terms of airline or hotel, or we created it on our computer. And we have in our files a special section for vacation. And when we do the next vacation, we just print out everything and put it in the binder for the next one. So that's how we stay organized when we go on vacation. So remember, tips on being organized, subscribe to our channel,
And make sure you like this video.
give it a thumbs up. So Frank,
And Kevin,
say
cruising on wheels, cruising with wheels.
happy cruising.
Happy cruising.